Thank you for tuning into the S&V 500, Episode 4. I'm Rory Sauter from The Rory Sauter Show. Joining me is Michael Vass, my co-host. Michael, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm not quite as excited as you are because there's just too much. I'm overwhelmed because of all the things that are happening in our country right now. Crazy.
It really is a crazy time. And what happened yesterday is the biggest abuse of power we have ever seen from our government. I mean, words can't even describe it. Beyond atrocious.
Well, it's not the biggest abuse of power, but it's in there. And the problem is that we are seeing, and it's unprecedented, and people should understand what that means. The impact that this is going to have, that every president from this point forward is a target, a political target. That is a problem. This is what we see, and it's been rightly said, we've seen this in third world nations, in particular like in South America, where people are going after their political opponents to try and maintain their power. This is a devastating blow to our democracy because it's a never-ending cycle of attack of the opponent and totally distracts the purpose of government and the benefits of government. So, yeah, it's a big deal. It's really big.
I mean, think about what went down, what transpired. You have Biden and his cronies going after an ex-president, a political rival, because they're worried about him in 2024. They don't want him to run again. It's been witch hunt after witch hunt. There's nothing. If there was any sort of evidence of Trump committing a crime, it would have been out a long time ago. They've been harassing him for 6 years. 6 years. It's over and over and over. He lives rent-free in their heads. And they all start celebrating, here comes the smoking gun, and it's always a nothing burger.
Well, yes, and that's one of the big problems with this whole thing. It's
you know what it is, Michael? It's the feeling of Trump going down. It's not the facts. It's like the voter base that has this animosity towards Trump. They like the idea of him getting raided, him getting busted. And even if he's innocent, it doesn't matter to them. They just want him in a jail cell because they have some sort of vengeance. They can't get over it. He's out of office, and they still talk about him every single day.
Well, quite honestly, they have to, because think about it. What else do they have in front of them? They have no positives in terms of the Biden-Harris administration. There's nothing that they can say that they have done well or that they have done better or that it's helping the American people, short-term or long-term. So they have to rely on the fact that, well, Trump is still evil. He must be the great evil. And making America great must be evil as well. America First policies must be evil as well. And that's the problem. They're demonizing being American by de facto. And that doesn't bode well for our nation. And think about this. If they're going after President Trump like this, after the fact, after he's already served, after he's already out of office, if they're able to do this to him, what will they do to everyone else?
They can do it to anybody. They can raid anybody's home. And people that are cheering this on are only cheering it on until it happens to them. It's only funny until the FBI's at your doorstep demanding, that you allow them to see, whatever they want to see. I mean, this thing is going to get out of control, and it's just starting.
It's already out of control.
No, but I'm saying it's going to expand and get even more out of control than it already is.
I don't know how it gets more out of control. When we understand the truth, and this is the context people have to understand, President Trump has been working with the FBI on a regular basis since he left office and providing them information and access when they requested it. It was about 2-3 weeks ago that the FBI was at Mar-A-Lago as a regular trip that they have made, and they had access to his all of his records. They actually were there. They got the records. They reviewed the records. They helped to further secure the room that the records were in. So there was no surprise. If the FBI wanted any of the documents, they needed only ask or at worst, put out a subpoena. But again, as I've said before, very often Democrats react and progressives react in a way that they think they want to stop you from acting the way they would act. So, as we saw with Hillary Clinton, when she got a subpoena for classified documents, she destroyed the documents. They think that Trump would do the same thing. They think everyone else would react the same way. So they think if they asked him for it or if they gave him a subpoena, he would destroy the documents. There's no proof of that. There's no evidence of that. There's no hint of that. They could have very simply just gave him a letter and said, we'd like to get these documents that we reviewed, and it would be all over. No, the reason why they did it in this manner is so that they would have something to plaster in the news while people are looking at inflation going up, energy prices going up, a food crisis on the corner, the fact that they have failed at everything. We're looking at the Middle East falling apart, in front of our eyes. We're seeing America lose all of our posture, our abilities. We're not able to negotiate with China, with Russia, with the Middle East. We have the Iran nuclear deal that they're trying to push through that they can't get through. This is the only thing they have. And this is all about the 2022 election and the 2024 election. That's it. And anyone who tries to say, well, no, it's about something. No, there's no evidence for that. And again, I'll put it right in front of you. If the FBI was already there,
right,
they had been there more than once.
Right.
If they wanted the information, they could have just asked for it. That means that this is political.
It's all political. It really is. And you know what? They did not need to go about this in a dramatic fashion as they did. It's all for entertainment purposes. It's all to advance their agenda, to make things look like more serious than they really are. I mean, and we've seen this time and time again.
Well, it's about demonizing anyone who's in opposition.
It's the same kind of thing they did to Roger Stone, Paul Manafort. I mean, look at how they showed up to their homes in the middle. Roger Stone in the middle of the night. You had SWAT teams. I mean, it's so unnecessary.
Well, it's necessary if you're making a political statement.
Exactly.
This is an attack on your opponent. But if you're saying that, well, this is just part of the regular operation of their duties, no, it isn't. So this is politics. This is our government being destroyed by politics that have no place in the regular duties of our country. And it's only there to try and cover up everything that they're failing at. This is about distracting the public, distracting them from what's really important and what's affecting all of our lives, because they want votes, because they want to maintain power. And that should terrify people.
There's definitely conflicted situations here. Nicholas McQuaid worked with Hunter Biden's and Michael Sussman's criminal attorneys. Lisa Monaco was an Obama aide implicated in Russiagate. Maggie Goodlander, wife of top Biden aide Jake Sullivan, implicated in Russiagate. All involved with this raid. This was from what I understand, what I read, this was a local judge who put this out there, and they don't have the authority ultimately to do that, do they?
Well, the judge, which is Judge Reinhardt, and I know that
Reinhardt, it was Epstein's lawyer, and among many other corrupt individuals. Yes, that's another report I was going to get to.
Well, that's being reported by the Independent and several other publications, that he had worked for the staff of Epstein to try and protect those individuals. As a private citizen, he literally quit being a judge to go and take care of them, and then got reappointed, which is odd. There's something to be there. So we have a lot of individuals who are involved, moving parts here, but I think this is a top-down issue. I think this is the leadership. We are seeing this was approved from the Attorney General Merrick Garland. This involved the DOJ at all of its levels, at the top levels, to make this move, to make this decision, to rather than put out a subpoena, rather than make a request of the attorneys, to go in with this public show of force to try and discredit and to destroy the character of President Trump to prevent him. And it's been said very clearly, this is in part to stop him from being able to run. Because if you are caught with classified information that you should not have, you cannot run for office. Well, he was the president. He authorized the move of those documents. He declassified them in that action. Therefore, that doesn't apply. He can run, but they want that spectacle and they want that message in the back of his mind.
Right, and the archived documents that he took from the White House, he has the legal authority to do so. None of the information that he had in those boxes are criminal in any way, shape, or form. I mean, Andrew Yang even made a good point. If they were going off of, I forget what the specific documents are that he took with him, but if they were going for those, there's no case here, and it basically just landed Trump in the White House in 2024 because this is another witch hunt.
Well, they're counting on the fact that their base, the progressive movement, are going to eat this up. This is red meat for them.
Did I state that correctly? The archives, did I state that correctly?
Mostly. We don't know all the documents that are there because if some of them are classified, they won't reveal them to the public, nor should they. And they are, once you are in your public office, you're supposed to hand over documents to the archives, which to our knowledge, he did. And he does, as a president, have classification still remaining with him, even as a former president. That's why Obama comes to the White House and is able to speak with Biden about classified information. They have security clearances. They are able to have and to maintain classified documentation.
Right.
So we don't know that.
Where's the crime here? I'm so confused. Where's the crime?
There is no crime. It's an allegation. And again, it doesn't matter if it's true. It's just like Russia collusion. There was no truth to it. We knew the Steele dossier was incorrect. We know that the phone call with the Ukraine was made up. It didn't matter. It's about making the negative look real so that they can get votes. That's all this is about.
There's been a lot of speculation and talk on social media about possibly the FBI planting something in Mar-a-Lago to frame Trump for a crime just so they can get him on something. What your thoughts on that? Because they went in there, there was a statement and there was a report from numerous outlets. They went in there and said, get the cameras out of here, shut the cameras off. They were very demanding and very aggressive. Your thoughts?
The FBI is always demanding and aggressive whenever they do anything. And
I know, but with Trump, they probably took it to a whole nother level of extreme aggression.
I'm not going to speculate on that. What I will say is they're always demanding and aggressive, and they assume that you don't know your rights, so therefore they're going to scare you into trying to not assert your rights. You have the right to film them and to be present with them in there while they go through those documents. Could they have submitted some document? This is definitely social media speculation. I've not seen that in the major news media, but anything is possible. What's more important is what we do know, that even if there is classified documentation, he has a security clearance and he was president when he moved those documents over. He had the right to have them and he has the right to maintain them. And they had already verified that he had done that properly. This is not a problem.
Well, there's two things I think everybody needs to understand, because I actually use the National Archives. Everybody's focusing on the Department of Justice and the FBI. And let's talk first about how records are handled at the National Archives, because I use the National Archives to do research. So I've been there many times. And so when a president leaves office, their records go into storage. When they open their presidential library, they assemble a team of people who go through and determine which documents should be made public and which documents should remain classified or sealed away, such as in the Kennedy case, a number of records are being sealed for like 100 years or something. So this concept of he's hoarding these documents and he's hiding them, even if they go to the National Archives, he gets access to those documents all over again, and it's part of the actual process to get them into his presidential library. So that's one. Two, this is about a deeper state than this, and I just wrote a piece on this an hour ago. Everybody is focusing on the Department of Justice and the FBI. Totally legit, by the way, because obviously they're being militarized and weaponized. However, take a closer look at the National Archive. 6 days ago, a new archivist for the United States National Archives was appointed. Her name is Colleen Shogan. She is not even a historian. She is a political science adjunct teacher at Georgetown University. She served in a number of historical boards, but she is a political scientist. And that's what her function is. You know who had to sign off on all of this? Her. She was the acting archivist. So the Biden administration put their patsy in with her. She's, of course, going to sign off on this. She has not been confirmed. And I have serious questions about the legitimacy of having a non-historian who is managing the National Archives, whose entire function is to preserve and make available the history of the United States. This goes beyond Department of Justice, and I think they need to take a very serious look at her appointment. They need to look at everything that has been corresponded with to her by the FBI, by the Department of Justice, and by the White House, because this is much bigger. We've all heard about the deep state. We all have our suspicions about it. This is not just about the DOJ and the FBI. This goes much bigger, and it seems highly suspicious to me. I'm not a conspiracy guy at all. That you get somebody who gets appointed archivist and 6 days later signs off on this raid, which is unprecedented in the history of our country. So to me, that's something that Republicans can latch onto, and I think she needs to go under a grilling like you wouldn't believe.
Why can't we abolish the FBI? I mean, many conservatives are saying, with how they've gone so, far gone. I mean, how far gone they are, just how corrupt they are, all the madness they put us through, all the witch hunts, all the wasted tax dollars, all the going after innocent civilians for their own political gain. I mean, I could go on and on. These people are disgraceful. These people used to be heroes, and they've turned into villains. I mean, there are some good ones, but go ahead. There's more bad apples than goods in this department.
No, you're overplaying that to an extent, and I want to say.
But you even agree it's totally a whole different ball game compared to what it was 20 years ago. I mean, they have created a massive swamp in the FBI, and we are seeing it every day. Go ahead.
Roy, what we're talking about is leadership, not the rank and file. And I think people need to make that difference is clear. The FBI serves a very big and important purpose in the United States, and it normally does that very well. Leadership and where they are directing people and ordering them to move forward, that's an entirely different thing. We're seeing this come, again, this is coming from the top, whether it's coming from National Archives or from the AG, the DOJ. This is a top-down movement. Now, we have individuals who have become very political, and because of their leadership, politicized the rest of it. That means if we take care of the roots, the rest of the tree is fine. I truly believe that. The FBI is fine. It's the leadership and the way they are directing people that they have no other choice but to become even more political. And once we start rooting that out in the leadership, we will see a better organization. But Kevin, I know you've been waiting.
Yeah, I'll give you some insight because I retired as a federal employee. I can tell you what it's like in all these organizations. So like OPM, that's Office of Personnel Management, all these places like IRS, the VA, the DOJ, and the FAA, DOD, they have so much power you would not believe at the top. Mm-hmm. I think power is what's corrupting them. And this is what's giving them hold. Okay, so like you said, if the person in front of you or above you sanctions this and you want to get promoted, because that's what a lot of this is all about. If you're going to get the right position, it's a jockeying thing for everybody who's a federal employee in those kind of jobs, and those are not your normal jobs. It's just like the IRS. Nobody cares. It seems like it. I still have tax returns I put in 2 years ago, haven't been paid yet because they sat in a trunk for 2 years. Okay? They don't really care. They don't care about the other fellow federal employees either. You can't get anything done easy way. So I think what we're seeing here it's corruption at the top. And when the political, like Michael said, when the politics changes, then you have to change too, or you're going to be out of that spot in those positions at the top. And these people have so much at stake if they don't. That's the difference. Now, not everybody's like that. We love our federal employees. I'm happy to be retired and everything. But like Michael was saying earlier, and this emboldens them. So I have two friends that are in the January 6th prison, and they were taken from their homes. I know them personally. I worked with the guy, and his wife just got over cancer. He had neck surgery. She went first last July. She's the nicest woman in the world. I actually talked to them before they left, and they were asking if I wanted to go. I'm glad I didn't at this point, but it was too cold for a brother to go there. I'll just say that. So that's the reason, one of the reasons I didn't go. But the point is, these are patriots. These are people that didn't do anything wrong. And not, you ask, how can they do that to President Trump's home? And it's easy. That's what they do. There are people in those kind of organizations. That's what they do, like the Clive and Bundy Ranch. That's what they did. That's a government organization. Just like if you want to go back to what happened with David Koresh and everything, that's not what government employees are supposed to do. They're supposed to serve the people. And now they're actually turning things around where we serve them. And that's the power, just like this bill that just passed. Congress is so corrupt right now in the Senate. How can you get a bill passed and it starts in the Senate and not in the Congress? So what's that going to do? This energy bill is not legal, but they did it with Obamacare. So they go so far, nobody's going to do anything about it. That's the thing. Who's going to stop them? We don't have any power over them anymore. That's the issue in this country. We have no power. Just like I had a guest on my show that talked about that. There's a solution to that you can actually, vote locally, because we don't need people there all year long. This thing has gone so far out of control. We need to take this back. We're no longer the people who control our government and our employees and everything. That's all the opposite way. They control us. It's like a tyranny of its own. But as far as what's happening, I'm not really surprised, because I saw this in my career at the top and the organizations that were in control of money, finances, the war effort, everything. It's all the same. They're all power hungry people who don't really answer to anybody. That's the problem. You don't have any you can't answer to anybody, then you're a problem. You can't be controlled. The president does the same thing, because everybody's taking the same cue. If you can get everybody an executive order, which is not legal, to take the shot, federal employees or whatever, then you have too much power. They can't do that. That's impossible. Nobody goes after that. Nobody says, hey, we can't do this, that you hear about. And as far as President Trump goes, yes. I know he has a clearance, but I think that's great. Most people don't. They lose it after 2 years. So the things that happen, just like congressmen, they get the clearance no matter what when they get in office. It has nothing to do. They have no investigation. And that's a lot of the problems we have, because they're corrupt, working with China. They can have all these things in the background. They can have the limousine drivers, or their wife could be from there, and they have all these deals. They're going over to other countries to make deals with silicon chips and everything. This is what we have. These would never happen if they did the security clearances the correct way.
Because, Dan, maybe you have a slightly different outlook than what we've seen so far. We've heard from a historian, member of the government. What do you have to say?
Well, great to be here, you guys. Good to see you. Michael, we just did a show just a few days ago together.
Yes.
It's good to see you again. Before I leave, because I can't stick around too long, but before I leave, I wanted to give another perspective with respect to the FBI. There's another layer of things that the FBI is also doing, and I believe through the Democrats as well. So there was recently a leaked document leaked from the FBI, and what it was a document that said it had a whole list of different symbols and flags and icons and things. Some of you guys might be familiar with this.
Ted Cruz was talking about it recently. Yes.
Ted Cruz was talking about it. Veritas did a story on it, and Stephen Stambolier, he's an attorney. He actually broke, as far as I know, he broke the news. I just wrote an article on this. What they did was they named all these symbols used by, they say that's used by anti-government militia extremists. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to align symbols like the Gadsden flag, you know, the "Don't Tread on Me" flag, the Liberty Tree, the Moulin Labe, the "Come and Take It." A lot of these.
Flag.
What's that?
The Betsy Ross flag.
Well, I know I was getting to that. That's the most disturbing part of the whole thing, is that they also deemed the Betsy Ross flag with the 13 stars for the 13 colonies, the original, you know, the what represented the founding of our country. They're deeming that to be used by violent extremist militia people, and anything Second Amendment related, and the Minuteman. You guys are familiar with the symbol of the Minuteman. That, you know, Gun Owners of America uses that symbol. Virginia Citizens Defense League is another gun organization. They use that symbol. So it's what they're trying to do is they're trying to label and target patriots and Second Amendment supporters. And, you know, because I'm hyper focused on the Second Amendment stuff, it's what I work on every day. This was a story that I was asked to write about, and it's pretty disturbing, but we can see exactly how it's coming down. We can see that it's influenced by the Democrats, and the FBI is starting to act on some of these things, which to me, it looks like the same thing happened with Trump. So the FBI, in my view, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but in my view, they're definitely being used as a tool to demonize and destroy the Democrats' political opposition, which is real Americans, patriots, you know, conservatives. But that's there's a lot more details on the story.
No president, no one in government should be relying on whether you're my friend or my ally, you're on my side, you're on the other side. We're running a government. You should be, if you are, Director Wray should be taking care of the FBI in the best interest of the United States.
But instead, he's coddling the Biden administration and enabling their agenda.
I understand, but we have to, that's a problem that we've built into the society right now. Media has been working on this for decades, I believe, to make us think, oh, well, you've been elected or put in place by X, so you must be aligned. How many times do we hear this person was, they became a judge under whatever president, doesn't matter which one it is. Well, that should have absolutely zero to do with how are you interpreting the laws. Director Wray, is he doing what's in the best interest of America? To say that he's supposed to be aligned with one president or another president means that we have accepted that at some level there should be favoritism. And that's the problem. We've allowed that thought to be present in our minds and be part of our government, which is where the corruption starts from. The fact is, we should take them, anyone who's favoring doing their job based on a political preference or a personal preference should be removed immediately and replaced with someone who can say, and I'm sure we all have our biases, but to be as unbiased as possible in doing the core mission of that job. I think that's a key part of the corruption that's going on right now and why it has taken such a huge swath of our government over the last roughly 15 years. But I could be wrong. I know.
Let me say this. The people at the top are not the people in the regular federal employees. They're not the same people. Everybody has rules. There's so many rules, it's ridiculous in the government, except when you get to Washington, D.C. They make up their own rules, and they have no consequences. The problem is there's no oversight, so there's no accountability. That's how they get away with it.
And they always have something on one another. It's just, they're all compromised. Yes.
You know, conservatives, I like Glenn Beck and people like that are saying, you know, well, we really need to do this the right way. We need to be careful. We can't be fighting. We can't be doing this. And then Steven Crowder comes on and says, we need to basically comes on and say, we need to kick their asses now because we've been taking this stuff for too long. So I'm on the fence. You know, I don't know how professional about this I really want to be, as opposed to getting in there and kicking their asses, because they really need their asses kicked.
Hold up for a second. I understand the emotion. And again, that's what Democrats thrive on. That's what their whole party is about. And when we react because of our emotions, we always make the wrong decision. the thing that has kept America going for as long as it has, and why we are in the leadership position of the world, why the rest of the world is looking at us saying, please figure this out, guys, is because without us, there is no one else who's putting freedom first. No one else is protecting everyone else. There's been many a meme out there that says, hey, America, if you don't figure it out, no one's coming to save you because we save everyone else. So we have to be as logical as we can, as well thought out as we can, and not to go into the emotion of it. Because we want to beat them up, but we can't. We have to use the system. We have to take the system back and use the power there. Go ahead.
Hey, Rory, Michael is the voice of sanity, and I respect that. But and he's probably right. But we do get pretty angry. Right. What's that?
Yeah, it doesn't feel right. But
I think it's probably the best way to do it, because if I had my way, we'd be in there.
I was kind of exaggerating. I wasn't actually being serious. I just kind of get carried away sometimes, and I get too hyped up. My bad.
Yeah, but our opponents are going to look at us, and they're going to judge us by anytime, and that's sad. Anytime that we get emotional, even for a second, they will leap on that and say, see, they are the demons that we've been calling them. And that's the problem. What, we can't be human beings? We can't get pissed off because you're destroying our government at every level? We have corruption so deeply rooted that it is infecting every aspect of our lives and making Americans terrified to be able to exercise their First Amendment right, let alone the Second. Yeah, there's a problem when that's the kind of give and take that we have going on right now. And yeah, I'm just as upset as anyone else, but I remember, and I've been doing this 15 years, and I watch them every time, any little gap. Oh my God, you're a demon. But let alone, we watch, what are we seeing on their side? Eric Swalwell's sleeping with agents of China, and that's okay.
And crickets, not a damn word. They don't care.
Hunter Biden
That's right.
Is a convicted criminal. He is someone
and
who.
And speaking of Hunter Biden, one of the people involved with orchestrating the raid was overseeing the Hunter Biden case, and nobody wants to talk about that.
And exactly, and we know that Hunter Biden has verifiably, without any question, there's no question in this, we have the documentation, he committed federal crimes. And why has nothing, we don't even have an investigation on that ongoing right now. Come on, it's not that hard.
What about Pedo Peter? I want to know more about Pedo Peter. Joe Biden.
But I want to hear what Blaine has to say, because you've been
I'm kind of caught between Michael and Dan on this, but there is a time I just want to spit on my hands and hoist up the black flag. I think the rules of the game have changed, and so I'm going to go somewhere in the middle of the two of you, which is, they have used impeachment as a legitimate political club. That's what they used it for. And the founding fathers never intended this.
Right.
Part of the problem that the Republicans have is when we get into power, we always go, let's play nice. Let's be above the board. Let's not stoop to their level. We'll take the high road. They'll go low.
They don't get their hands dirty like the Democrats do. Democrats will do whatever it takes to get the job done and get their agenda passed. Republicans back down. You're right. Go ahead. Sorry.
And I think we've got to start applying some of the rules of the game they've changed on them. So, I look forward to the House and Senate. I look forward to us using impeachment on people like Merrick Garland. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if he's removed from office. They've taught us that this is now a legitimate rule of the game. And I'm an old school gamer. You set up the rules. I just leverage the rules to my advantage all the way. So I say leverage the rules that they're using. They've said, oh, well, we can use the FBI, et cetera, in a militant fashion. Very well. Then that's what we will do. And I think we don't have to do it as dirty and as ugly as they do it, but we need to leverage the rules, because if we play above the board, if we go, well, we'll take the high road, they're going to kick us in the nuts. That's what they do.
Win. You can't win if your opposition is cheating.
Correct. We saw this over the filibuster rule. They're the ones that put in place the filibuster rule. Now they're going, well, that's an unfair rule. These people change the rules all of the time to fit their needs and their agenda. We have to do the exact same thing.
I want to ask a question for everybody here. You've been hearing what we've been talking about so far. I'm going to add something new. There was a YouGov poll today that came out talking exactly about whether the FBI was correct or not in taking this raid on President Trump. And here's something that I think is going to be very surprising for most people. And that is, one of the questions is directly, do you think it was right or wrong for the FBI to execute a search warrant at Trump's Mar-A-Lago resort? 54%. So when I took the poll, which is about an hour ago, said it was the right thing to do. Only 44% said it was wrong. At the same time, the next question is, and do you think the FBI is independent in its investigation, or is it politically influenced? 52% said it's independent. Only 46% say it's politically influenced. So we have 54% of people taking this poll saying this was the right thing to do, and it has nothing to do with politics. Considering all of the various groups of people that we're speaking with right now, is that what you're hearing from the public, the people around you, the different sources that you have available? Because according to what I have in both social media and personally, that's not even close to the reality. What do you guys hear?
So Michael, if I could jump in and address a couple of these topics, I think that one of your earlier points is well taken in this context, that it almost doesn't matter what we think, because you were making the point earlier that this is all about optics. This is all about smearing President Trump with the progressive left. And, you know, when you look at the cohort that was polled in that study that you just referenced, that's a poll that tends to skew left. So the political motivation, right, from the perspective of those who answered the poll, they may think it's not politically motivated, but that's exactly playing into the hand of the political motivators that put this in motion. And I want to, if you don't mind, if I can harken back to another point, you were asking about whether or not this is to set President Trump up to get a conviction of some sort, a criminal record, so that he can't run in 2024. Well, as if you've been following me, you know I'm a biochemist by training, but I also have a degree in philosophy with a constitutional law concentration. Now, I'm not an attorney, but according to the Constitution, I can tell you that a criminal prosecution or even a criminal conviction does not prohibit President Trump or anyone else from running for the office of the presidency.
And not only that, but former Governor Andrew Cuomo, a crazy left-wing Democrat, came out and said,
came out and said they better be able to back it up. Otherwise, this is, you know, a disaster for Democrats. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that many Democrats realize that this was a little bit step too far. They've pushed the boundaries. They've impeached him twice. They had the January 6th investigation that's still ongoing right now with no merits. I mean, which I got to be honest, I didn't even know.
If January 6th was really working in their favor, they wouldn't need to pull this nonsense.
Well, exactly. I think the last shred of credibility that they had was when what's-her-face, Cassidy Hutchinson, came up and started talking about Trump trying to take over a limo and fighting off a Secret Service agent to try and get to the rally.
Against the wall. I mean, come on.
I mean, that's I think when they lost all credibility. No one cares. No one even knows that it's still going on. So this is them resurfacing because they have nothing else to campaign on except for the abortion issue and social issues, and then Donald Trump still being the most hated individual in the country to their eyes, and making sure he doesn't run in the presidency again when he's dominating the Republican Party and the MAGA movement, which is why Liz Cheney had to have her daddy come out and make a campaign ad for in Wyoming, because she's down whatever 20, 30 points in the polls there going into election season. So this is their last desperate attempt. This is, I think, very concerning. And one of you guys mentioned it a little bit earlier. I really do think that this Inflation Reduction Act, or whatever the hell they're calling it, is tied into this, because they realize after they came out with it and people realized by commonsensically that, hey, you can't spend trillions of dollars to reduce inflation. That's a stupid idea. That for them to move past that, they go after Donald Trump to change the topic, and they will come after us as private citizens, because if they can raid his home there, imagine what a tripling of the IRS and the number of agents are going to do there with auditing everybody that, like you mentioned, that has these different labels of having a Gadsden flag or having a MAGA flag or having an American flag or registering as a Republican or a conservative. It's going to be the audits beyond belief with that agency, and that's the intent. They demonize that guy and get him out of the leadership of the Republican Party, and then anyone that follows suit, they control them through their finances by auditing of the IRS and raising up their taxes, creating a food shortage, creating an energy shortage, pushing a Green New Deal to where we can't afford to turn on our heat or our electricity or our air conditioner, forcing individuals to get an AV or an electric vehicle to where that stresses the power grid even more. And then they have complete dominance over us, and there's nothing we can do about it. So I think that's the direction that they're going to go. Again, they fear tactic worst case scenario there. What we can do is recognize what's really going on here. The poll that you read, Michael, earlier about the people that believe whether this is political or non-political, that's going to flip as this information comes out, because the individual that they polled there were the people that are listening to it on the mainstream media saying that this is non-political and, oh, look, Donald Trump, another aha, gotcha, the smoking gun here of what Donald Trump's done. And then when all the information comes out and all of us, including everybody here on this panel, realizes what's really going on and gets that information out, the ones that are half paying attention, the average American just trying to get home from work, they're going to kick back and say, oh, wait a second. Yeah, that makes sense. Again, Donald Trump comes out and prevails. And I think Donald Trump will come out and announce a presidency probably after the midterm elections. I still think December, January when he announces. I had Dick Morris on my program a couple weeks ago, and he said the same thing, that it's going to happen after the midterm elections. And I think that this is just another notch in the belt for them to come back and say, look, everything that I've been saying that's what's going on in D.C. is corruption is true. And not only is it true, it's so true that they're so desperate to come after me that they had to raid my house due to the National Archives of the White House to try and come after documents that were completely unnecessary for 30, federally and fully armed agents of the FBI to come and take over my home for a while. This is absurd. And I think it's going to win over more voters.
Well, Andy, let me ask you this, because you've been talking to people on your show about this. You've been getting feedback directly from the public. And I would believe, I know we've been following this intensely. So we see that they spent 3 years with the Russia hoax. Every time they've come up with their various hoax, the Ukraine phone call, everything they've come up with has been proven to be false and if anything, always turns back and points back at the Democrats having done something. I recognize that. I think everyone on the panel recognizes that, and our followers do. What are you hearing, though, from the general public? Are they starting off with, I'm a bit suspicious, as they call it, sus these days? Or are they saying, no, it's the news media, so it must be true?
Yeah, everybody that I've talked to, obviously there's a wide range, especially on social media. I've had a few of the quote unquote moderate Republicans who say, well, it's justified and he can't be above the law, so it's justified if they're going and searching for things. But outside of that, everybody else, the first reaction that I saw all over my social media on the radio program was individuals that just said, wow, look how corrupt these guys are, because we haven't investigated Hunter Biden or Joe Biden. We haven't investigated the emails from Hillary Clinton or what she did. They had to resubmit the laptop to the FBI because the FBI didn't want to look at Hunter Biden's laptop. The FBI was the same organization that accepted the dossier from Clinton about the Russian collusion that they knew was actually a fraud. So the fact that they're jumping so far into Donald Trump, just according to everybody that I've heard, solidifies the fact that Trump was right, that whether it's Russian collusion, whether it was the voter fraud issue, whether anything that Trump's talked about, it just validates him even more and makes them look even foolish. And I think that's where the majority of people are going to go, because you're right. When they come out with this stuff, they all believe it at first, and then we get the information. And just like every narcissist, we realize that psychologically, as you were mentioning, that a narcissist, they try to pawn off whatever issues they're going through and that they have internally is what they try to make someone else out to be. Democrats have colluded with Russia. They have colluded with China. They have colluded with Ukraine. They have done all of these crazy shenanigans. They were the ones that actually created the dossier. They are the ones that are actually using these agencies for their own personal and political benefit, while they blame someone else for doing it. And the truth always comes out in the end. We just have to let people know about it.
That if we win back, if we take majority of the House, which it looks like is gonna occur, and if we get majority of the Senate, do you think they'll actually do something with investigations, with going after Garland and going after these people that went after Trump on these raids? Or do you think they'll do what they did when Obama was in office, when they had power, and basically nothing, and just let the Democrats walk all over them? Your thoughts real quick, and then let's go to David.
they'll do 2 or 3 of the higher profile individuals. They'll start the investigation. Investigations take about 2 to 3 years. So we're not going to get a result on that or an answer until 2024, right after the election. They're going to try and get it done before then, probably in August of 2024, just so that they can run it into the election. But we're not going to get an immediate answer. They're going to go after 2 or 3 key individuals, and that's it. Because honestly, the majority of the Republican Party are not hardcore. They're not dedicated. They're political, and they're looking for the next win in their election. This would make them too committed to the cause, and therefore they could potentially lose if every domino doesn't fall in their way. So I think they're going to safeguard themselves, 1 or 2 key people, and let the rest of it sit. And again, everyone else in the panel may disagree, and I'm perfectly happy to hear everyone's thoughts on that, but that's the way it's coming together for me.
Let's go to David. And
Mitch McConnell had every opportunity to say something by now. That's the key proof of what I'm talking about. But sorry, David.
David, go ahead.
No problem. This is a great discussion, and thanks for allowing me to join. I got about 30 minutes altogether with you. I got a hard stop and a radio show in Australia right after this. But
nice. Good day, mate. I love Australia, man.
700 stations, so I got to speak to them. Look, first of all, I think Mike is exactly right. The American memory is extremely short. This is all going to blow over, and all kinds of other things are going to happen before the election cycle. So we got to keep all of that in mind. Plus, the media is weaponized. So the Democrats have a strong arsenal, in military terms, of bringing the fight to us. The Republicans are extremely weak in this area. So we have to shore that up. I don't know how that's going to happen, but we need some strong leadership. What we lack, besides Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis and a few other, we lack in the Republican Party a lot of strong leaders. There's no question about it. But on the other side, the Democrats don't have any leaders. So they have, as the American public looks at this entire picture from A to Z, what do they see? They see Biden, they see the VP, they see, by the way, I looked up the word loose cannon, which we use in the military a lot. I looked up in the dictionary. They didn't have a definition of loose cannon. They had a picture of Nancy Pelosi, just to let you guys know that. And she did us a great favor by going over there to the Asia Pacific region, by the way. That was a beautiful move on the Democrats' part to help lose whatever elections they're going to try to win in the future, because she has really aided. So with all of that being said, I think there's a strong point, and I think you're right in the sense that Trump has a strong argument going in right now with the FBI being weaponized. I think that FBI's director's head may start rolling here shortly. We'll see, about that. But, as I told my son yesterday, you talk about all the criminal activities that Democrats have done. If I were to have done what Hillary Clinton did, I'd be in Leavenworth for about 25 years, because, her actions were criminal. And what happened? Nothing. Okay, so we got to take all that in count. And I know that Tricia was talking about numbers and talking about all the things that were happening. But, that analysis that I worked in the Pentagon for 4 years, it's called analysis paralysis. We have all these wonderful numbers and analysis and everything. But when the rubber meets the road, the real leadership takes over and starts turning out, the important things that we're talking about right here. So again, leadership is like real estate. Location. Trump's a leader. DeSantis is a leader. Cruz may be in that running, and a couple of other Republicans. That's what we're going to need going forward. And if we don't have that kind of leadership across the board, Sleepy Joe, in a basement wins the election, whether by hook or crook, who knows. But the fact of the matter is, we need that leadership in America, or we're going to lose America in this next election cycle.
Yeah, very well.
But Colonel, you're right. But we also need strategy.
Greg Merk, we haven't heard from you in a while, man. Yeah. This whole raid went on in Florida where you're running for Congress. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I do think that as much damage as the Democrat Party and frankly, Never Trump Republicans are trying to do to Donald Trump, ultimately, I think he comes out stronger. And, they never learn their lesson. It's one attack after another. And every time Donald Trump comes out, he's stronger, he's more popular. And, if they really realistically would have left him alone, I think there was some damage that this January 6th thing was doing. It was shedding this light on Trump, whether, all of it hearsay, nonsense. But the fact is, it was having an impact on those who are in the middle, in independents. And I think it was possibly turning people away from Trump, or at least not making people love Trump and want to support him more. His base, of course, always will be. But I'm talking about those people in the middle, those swing voters. Well, now what they did was they just kind of threw that out the window, because I think now we're going to see a stronger, more solidified Trump base, and they're going to rally around him, and it's going to make him come out stronger.